I'm a friend of America, and I'm trying to be helpful to America. And of course, we all know that America has decided, for whatever reason, to launch a geopolitical contest against China. But of course, the key point I emphasized at the beginning of the book is okay, even if you decide to launch a geopolitical contest, the first requirement is that you first work out a comprehensive long-term strategy on how to deal with China. And it's actually quite shocking. And this is an insight that Henry Kissinger gave me at a one-on-one lunch I had with him in New York 2 years ago. But America hasn't worked out a strategy.
Is it Henry Kissinger? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I had a one-on-one lunch with Henry Kissinger in March 2018 in New York. And it's actually sad that the United States hasn't worked out a strategy. And so there are some fundamental questions that have to be asked, and I'll just mention two. The first one is, now that you launched a geopolitical contest against China, what is your number one strategic priority? Is it the well-being of the American people, or is it primacy? Now, these are two very different goals. And as you know, one key point I emphasize in my book is that America is the only major developed country where the average income of the bottom 50%, has gone down over a 30-year period. And this, as two Princeton University economists, Case and Beaton, have documented, have created a sea of despair. So at a time when your people, the bottom 50%, are struggling, should that be the priority, or should it really be to take on China?
We are sorry to interrupt you, but before we move on to the next point, we noticed that a lot of you are returning viewers who have not subscribed. If you've enjoyed our content, subscribing would mean the world to us. It's a small click for you, but it makes a huge difference for us. Thank you for your support.
China. And I would say, frankly, the well-being of the American people is more important than the issue of primacy. What's the point of being number one if your people are suffering? So that's the first question. The second point I make is that, whenever Americans think about China or speak about China, they talk about the Communist Party of China. And of course, once you put it as a dispute between a democracy and a Communist Party, then by definition, a democracy is virtuous and a Communist Party is evil. It makes it very easy, it makes it a black and white choice. Unfortunately, we are no longer living in a world where everything is black and white. Actually, what America has decided to do is to launch a geopolitical contest against the world's oldest civilization, it's over 4,000 years, to launch a geopolitical contest against the world's most resilient civilization. The Chinese civilization is the only civilization that's been knocked down 4 times and stood up 4 times. And you decide to launch a geopolitical contest against a civilization that has 4 times the population of the United States. And the United States is only 250 years old. China is 4,000 years old. And you decide to launch a geopolitical contest against China at a time when the Chinese people have never been better off. The current Chinese government has done more to improve the standard of the living of the Chinese people over the past 40 years than any previous Chinese government has over the past 4,000 years. And just the day before yesterday, I participated in the launch of something called the Edelman Trust Barometer, which measures trust in government. And the country which has got the highest level of trust in government is China, with 90%, 90% of the population trusting the government. So at a time when a civilization is sort of experiencing a major resurgence, you decide to take it on without a strategy. So as a friend of America, I say, maybe you should pause and think again. And that's what my book tries to do. It tries to help America by saying, think about the big picture. Well, in the case of China, and I must emphasize that China is not a perfect country. China is a normal country. China has made mistakes. And as you know, I devote a whole chapter to China's biggest strategic mistake. And I think China's biggest strategic mistake was to alienate the American business community. Because, for decades, whenever the government in Washington, D.C. wanted to pressure China, wanted to raise human rights on China, the American business community would immediately stand up and say, stop. China is our biggest market, and for Boeing, China is the biggest market. For General Motors is making more money from China than it is from the United States. So clearly, the American business community was China's best friend for many years. But sadly, the Chinese, I think partly because of the America's struggles in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, Chinese became a bit arrogant, complacent, and began to treat American businessmen with disdain, made life difficult for them. There were allegations of theft of intellectual property and so on and so forth. So the thing that the most surprising, I think, when President Trump decided to launch his trade war against China in 2017 or 2018, normally the business community would have said, stop, stop, stop. This time they kept absolutely quiet. And this was a reflection of the strategic mistake that the Chinese had made. But I would say, in the case of the United States, the strategic mistake it made in some ways was a bigger one, because it was America that decided to launch this geopolitical contest against China. China actually is trying to avoid this geopolitical contest for reasons we can discuss later. But America launched this geopolitical contest without working out a long-term strategy. And Sun Tzu, a Chinese strategic thinker, said very wisely, know thyself, know thine enemy, fight 1,000 battles, win 1,000 battles. And if you want me to summarize my book in a couple of sentences, I would say America hasn't tried to know itself. America doesn't know it knows its strengths, but it doesn't know its weaknesses. And in terms of knowing thine enemy, it knows China's weaknesses, but it doesn't know China's strengths. So what my book tries to do is complement it by pointing out to the United States, please look at your weaknesses also, and look at China's strengths. And then when you look at the big picture, then you decide what is the wisest strategy to adopt to manage a rising China. It was at the end of the day, it was the United States that decided to launch a geopolitical contest against China. And the Chinese actually are not ready yet for this geopolitical contest. And for obvious reasons, they want to delay it. But I think the one big mistake that the United States is making is that the United States says, hey, we have won every struggle. In World War I, we won. World War II, we won. Cold War, we won. When the Japanese challenge came, we won. So the Americans have assumed that come what may, we will always win. And it is, by the way, it is very, very conceivable and highly possible that America, yes, can win the struggle against China. But I would say whenever you go into a contest, the biggest mistake you can make is to overestimate your capabilities and underestimate the capabilities of your adversary. And China, and this, I recommend that those who doubt what I say about China should read Henry Kissinger's book on China. And one simple point I make is that the Chinese leaders do think carefully, strategically, and think long-term. And they are patiently accumulating advantages year by year, year by year, year by year. So this is not your old Soviet Union that you're dealing with. So I'm actually trying to be helpful to the United States. But as you know, I also begin the book by publishing a hypothetical letter from one of Xi Jinping's colleagues to President Xi Jinping saying, we have taken on the United States, of course we will win, but China must never, never underestimate the United States. It has been the most successful society. And then I proceed to describe how the United States is such an amazing society, and it would be a mistake for China. So I'm actually advising both America and China to be very wise and careful before stepping this geopolitical contest. Because at the end of the day, I believe that the American people and the Chinese people will actually be better off.
What do you guys think? Do you think he is right that the United States should focus on fixing its own internal problem first? Please leave your comment below. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you for making it this far. If you like this video, you might want to share it with a like-minded friend. Thank you, and as always, stay blessed.